Hello everyone, I'm Kevin, otherwise known as Forum BX257, your friendly neighborhood 1980s and 90s G.I. Joe reviewer. And to roll in the new year, I've decided to do another annual top 10 list. Now, during the course of doing research on my G.I. Joe toy reviews, I've sort of neglected one side of the information spectrum, and that is not really taking a good look at the blueprints sometimes. And the blueprints do have this wonderful color text in here, which doesn't really add much to, the assembly instructions, but it's there and they're often very fun to read. But over the course of 10 years, I've noticed that sometimes they add some very odd things into this list of the blueprints that the vehicles or playsets are supposed to have. Now, I know that this color text is not sometimes totally made by the designers of the toy. Sometimes this is often written by the copywriters, the people who put, the contents lists on the cards of the card backs on the figures and stuff like that. So sometimes this doesn't really, sort of add up to what's on the vehicles. And that's what I want to explore here, my top 10 choices for oddest inclusions on these blueprints. Starting off with two honorable mentions. First, the 1982 Mobile Missile System, or MMS. In its blueprint, it mentions that the range and speed of its missiles are classified. Fair enough, but then proceeds to give close approximates. Why not just leave it to the imagination as to how fantastic the G.I. Joe variants of Patriot missiles could be? And next is the 1984 Swamp Skier, Zartan's chameleon vehicle. In its blueprint, it mentions the rear-facing, wide-dispersion ink sprayers, like something out of a James Bond-equipped car. In the cartoon, these were more practical smoke screen projectors, an adaptation of actual military tech often found on tanks. Seriously though, I'm not sure how effective ink sprayers would even be against another watercraft. And now, in no particular order, are my choices for top 10. Starting with the 1983 Amphibious Personnel Carrier, or APC. In its blueprint, it mentions shelf-proof tinted Butyrate portholes, which is a fancy way of saying driver windshield windows, but that's not the problem I have with this. My problem is that Butyrate is a chemical chain in certain acids. And only that. I'm not sure how butyrate could ever be used in Windows or even the tinting process. Sounds like the copywriter found a new word and figured no one else had access to a scientific dictionary. Next is a rare 1985 Sears exclusive available only in the United States and Canada, the Crimson Guard Motorized Crimson Attack Tank, or CAT. In its blueprint, it mentions the SDE2 1800 horsepower turbine engine, which sounds about right for a souped-up fantasy tank. Here's the problem though. There is a sticker placed near the engine which clearly states V12 Turbo 1200 bhp. So which is it? The artwork, also showing this, and the sticker sheet would be made in advance of the blueprint and instruction sheet, so why wasn't that copied word for word? I'm not the first to mention this discrepancy, but to anybody thinking the copywriter was maybe calculating gross horsepower versus net or brake horsepower, I don't buy that, and it's just a mystery now. The 1986 Tomahawk helicopter had a lot of neat features mentioned in its blueprint, but the very final one is written in great detail, to its detriment. The laser-enhanced NVS night vision system 50 caliber machine guns sounds like a good idea until you look at the actual sculpt of the toy guns. It looks like they have a rear aperture sight, a kind of adjustable hole an operator would look through, but that's it. In other words, there's nothing like a screen or scope that any night vision system would relay information back to the gunner from. This is a personal one, as it's a bit of information I had to edit out of my toy review to avoid YouTube's dreaded gun video witch hunt at the time. Although, to be fair, that dialogue did turn into more of a rant than it needed to be, so I'd probably have deleted it regardless. In the 1991 motorized battle wagon blueprint, it mentions the 8-shot semi-automatic motorized cannon. Only it isn't. I clearly demonstrate that it is a 8-shot fully automatic motorized cannon. The term semi-automatic has really lost its meaning when news organizations use that to denote a scary feature on a firearm. Ooh. However, the word semi means half or less of something that is normally whole. Why on earth would that be scarier than a feature with a fully automatic mode? The worst part of this is that semi-automatic and fully automatic are terms not limited to firearms, but are in everyday items. If you have a motorized garage door, congratulations, you have a fully automatic device. You don't need to constantly press and release the open or close button. One touch and the mechanism continues to work until it can go no further. In other words, the door is fully opened or closed. I guess this still turned into a rant against supposedly unbiased people using obvious terms incorrectly, so I'll just leave it there. The 1986 Sergeant Slaughter Tag Team Terminator, or Triple T, is a strange little tank thing. But here's where it gets stranger. In the blueprint, it mentions the Slaughter-sized command seat, which sounds good when you remember that the included Sergeant Slaughter figure was taller than a normal 3 3/4 inch G.I. Joe at the time. Here's the problem. The seat was no larger than any other G.I. Joe vehicle seat. Even if you tucked in his arms, the elbows stuck out at the sides and his head stuck way out from the top edge of the seat, giving the back of his head no support. Maybe the prototype Triple T seat was deeper and wider, but it definitely didn't translate into the production version. The 1990 Cobra Piranha Attack Speedboat has a 2-for-1 head shaker. In fact, I'd say this one was written by a person who thinks a Honda Civic with flames painted on the side classifies as a sports car. Hint, it does not. First, the blueprint mentions the speed enhancing accelerator spoiler, which is not what spoilers do at all. Spoilers are for aiding general stability. The only way a spoiler will help accelerate a vehicle is if it has rockets attached to it, which would reclassify it as a pylon. Down below, we also have a 12,000 horsepower hydraulically energized aqua power plant. I won't comment on the techno junk that is the rest of this quote, but 12,000 horsepower on a small mass-manufactured patrol escort vehicle? Really? The 1991 Cobra Paralyzer tank has a feature that just leaves me puzzled. According to the blueprint, it has an inclined, full-control cockpit with cranium touch battle instructions. What? What on earth does cranium touch battle instructions even mean? There's nothing else in the blueprint list to add to this crazy line of words. Looking at the toy itself, nothing attaches to the head, or cranium, of a seated figure. The back of the box, which sometimes contains interesting additions, doesn't mention anything of the sort, nor does the 1991 Impel card, which, for some reason, gives this vehicle a backstory. The 1989 Thunderclap is another 2-for-1, but this one is less of a head shaker as I can sort of see what went wrong here. The copywriter clearly only saw one side of the vehicle. First, the blueprint mentions a single-barrel, rapid-fire computer-controlled blaster cannon, but that cannon actually has 2 barrels. You'll notice that the correct number of cannon barrels is mentioned for the other tank, despite the fact that you can't see the number of them on that view either. Then, it mentions the 2 multi-directional, surface-to-surface, low-attack missiles. Sure, there are 2 on that side, but there is a 3rd on the other side. Again, this is despite the mention of the correct number for the other tank, when you can't see them all on that side. The 1986 Laser Artillery Weapon, or LAW, is one of the most boring mini-playset accessories ever made for the G.I. Joe line. I'm not sure if it's even worth my time making a review of it, despite the fact that I found a good use for it on the 1985 Tactical Battle Platform. Anyway, the blueprint mentions the Infinity Variable Energy / Unidirectional Laser. With infinity in quotes, I can suppose that it's just a name for this type of laser cannon, but unidirectional? Does that mean a laser blast itself only moves in one direction? Or do they mean the position of the cannon barrel only moves in one direction? If it refers to the first idea, that should be a given as you'd want your laser to hit what you're pointing at. But if it's the second idea, that's actually quite limiting, seeing as you can turn the turret and angle the barrel in a variety of directions on the toy. And last but not least, the 1993 Ghost Striker X16 blueprint is a curious mix of traditional color text and fourth wall breaking notes. Not so much odd as it is hilarious, the blueprint mentions the high-tech Mach 10 turbo thruster. which just sounds like the copywriter was the same age as the consumer. I was trying to give it the benefit of the doubt, like maybe there's a decimal missing, but then the whole magical speed appears again. High speed, reinforced Mach 10 fuselage. So the copywriter knows full well that level of speed needs some kind of special treatment or the jet tears itself apart. Mach 10, or 10 times the speed of sound, is around 7,672 miles per hour, or just a little over 3 times the speed of an SR-71 Blackbird, which just gives a big fat chuckly nope out of me. Well, that's all the time I have right now. Please check out my Facebook page for more information and behind the scenes photos for these reviews. Thank you for watching this video, and stay tuned for next time to see another 1980s G.I. Joe toy review. See you then!